go public, that's when the signal blast goes out. So we'll get an idea. People will start rolling in around then, and then we'll move in on talking about things. But I see a couple of y'all in here right now. Thanks for stopping by. Going to live here. I see it. Let me go to the control room. And sure enough, there it is. I can edit from here. You got to do both. You can't just, it's got to be official. It's got to be a real, like, it's weird how, I was just having a call with judge and jury, and we got into like a side conversation about how the content we're making and the music we're making, and sometimes it's like we're talking about music videos, and it was like, there's something about a really well made, well, thoroughly thought out narrative story that you tell in music videos. But nowadays, it's like, how much more relational can I make it? How much more stripped down can I make it? And it's like, in some ways, it feels internally like a regression of everything I grew up watching and learning. Was like, oh yeah, you want it to look really slick and professional, and that's the goal. But in some ways, it's like, it's this go live
Yeah.
together. We're both on our phones, and it's like, really, my phone? Like, I don't need I have a webcam. I got this thing right here. Like, I have professional equipment. You don't want me to use that? There you go. You got it
Same.
back there
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Who
So
needs
that,
it?
yeah, it's like, there's probably a way we could have done this on our computers with a little more professionalism, but they like it when we do the, I guess it's because everyone has a phone and has front facing cameras, so it makes it feel a little bit more like, oh, we're the same, we all got a lot in common
Yeah.
type
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
thing from top to bottom. But yeah, so people are in here proper now, so we're hanging out. We got about 50 plus of us in here. That's nice. Cool. Well, we're just hanging out today, chatting. We're talking about my album, The Darkness Before the Dawn, that came out in late April, early March. We're talking about Josh and I's song, The Memory, Josh from Ashes Remain. Thank you so much for being here, by the way. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule just to hang out and chat and talk about music, talk about life.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but yeah, so I'm just curious too, and pardon me, sort of firing from the hip, freewheeling questions in general about life, because it's not very often you get a chance to talk to sort of storied musicians with lots of lived experiences, and in this genre of music, or a variety of genre of musics too. Like, pardon the immediate sort of big question. You can make it as short or expound as much as you want. Um, how have you seen, in particular, the genre of rock music, metal music, or if you wanted to be niche, Christian music? How have you seen it evolve over like the past decade or so, or more than that? Because it's 2025, so let's say 2 decades,
Yeah.
actually, maybe even
Yeah.
longer. Have you seen it change?
So for me, like, I'm a 90s kid, you know what I mean, grew up with grunge and all that stuff. But when I started, all I ever thought is I want to be in a rock band. And it
Hmm.
feels like now there's so many subgenres,
Hmm.
that people are like, so what kind of music are you? And it's almost not enough to just say rock, because there's so many options. But like, that's all I ever say. I'm like, it's a rock band. Like, sometimes it's pretty heavy, sometimes it's pretty light. We try to always make the lyrics matter, but like, it's definitely changed. You're not wrong. And that's the biggest change I see, is there's so many options of different genres now that just when I was a kid didn't exist. Like, that wasn't really so much of a thing. And it's good because there's something for everybody. But
Hmm.
I don't think we've, as Ashes Remains, ever fit into one specific spot. That's why we always just kind of throw the broad net of, we're a rock band, and you can call us post grunge, whatever you want. Like, that's okay with us. Like, we're just gonna keep writing rock songs.
Right. Yeah, and you mentioned the thought of, it's a good thing that we have sort of defined newer defined genres. I'm curious to sink into that idea, because in a way, when you say, "Oh, we're a rock band," that could be a lot of various stylings within rock and roll. It could, yeah, what you mentioned, grunge, metal, new metal, core, whatever, a bunch of things. Is there a in some ways, I feel like having a bit more of a broad net, casting a wide net, like you're talking about Ashes Remain, is like, oh, we're rock music. It's like, you can't even really, but you can't quite step into that. If you got real specific, if you, like you're mentioning, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, we're post grunge, new metal. with hints of these other genres. It's like in a way, it's like people who already have a predisposition to maybe not listen to that kind of music, they won't listen because it's so niche down. But when you have that wide net you're casting, it's like, well, I'll listen. And I feel like, I wonder, this is just me espousing ideas. It's like, I wonder if maybe the niching down in some ways is able to find more music that you really connect with. But I wonder if there's a part of it that has maybe made us not as open or willing to try new things, because we find what we like, we find what we're comfortable with, and we just kind of sit with that, rather than a willingness to go out beyond our norm and what's comfortable for us to listen to something new, even within a
Mhm.
genre we like.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like I think that can happen. So I'm interested to know what you think because when people always say I listen to everything, but I really do like all kinds of music. That I don't. If you were to say like, here, you get this one genre for the rest of your life, and that's all you can listen to, I would lose my mind.
Right, I agree. I agree with that.
So that's the flip side of that is, can you get stuck in one thing and not see everything that's out there? And I noticed specifically, looking at your music, looking at your channel, the stuff you've done, like you have a broad range in your voice, right? So you wouldn't, I can't imagine you're a guy who would say like, I only want to do this forever, right? You seem to like to stretch out and try different things.
Right. Yeah. I feel that way. I listen to the various kinds of music as well. I definitely have my favorite genres I tend to gravitate towards and stay in. But yeah, vocally, I've been the whenever we were working with fun details about the album, when we were working on the album and sort of crafting it, we were trying to find what my sound would be,
Yeah.
to use some label terms. And we had some challenges with that, partially because they knew me from my career on YouTube, and because I did a variety of vocal stylings and genres, it was like, well, which one are we going to do? Are we going to try to do them all? Are we going to pick one lane? What's the goal? So our original, we have at least 3 songs we wrote early on in the process that we have tabled,
Mm.
partially because they were far more musical theater than they
Yeah.
were what it turned into. So it it took a while to find, well, what's this album gonna sound like? What's how are you gonna approach it? And in fact, later on the album, in track 9 for Just One Step, that's one of the early songs that made it through the process, that actually did keep a fair bit of that musical theater vocal styling. So it sounds different than the rest of the record, in a lot of ways. So yeah, and this whole record too. This is my sophomore record, so this isn't my first album I've released. And the
Yeah.
first album I released was wildly different than this album. It was more alternative, singer songwriter, somewhere between, with a little alternative rock with some electronic thrown in there. So it was very different. Um, but I grew up on a lot of emo, metal, hard rock stylings. That was also a genre I mostly consumed, and I ended up gravitating writing wise. I gravitated away from that in some ways, and this album was a return to what I would listen to growing up, as opposed to what I wrote. Uh, that's a good that's an interesting thing to think about. If you weren't to when you've written the music for Ashes Remain, like, would you write a different genre of music, or are you like, what's your ethos when it comes to writing music for yourself, for your band, whatever it may be? Do you allow flexibility within that, or are you writing music specifically for whatever project it might be?
So the broad answer is all of the above, but for we've been a band since 2002. So for the first, I don't know how many years, for me, I write whatever comes to the top of my mind. I find something, a lyric or a melody, and I run with it. And for years, I would start writing something, and I would go, "No, this isn't something we would do as Ashes Remain," and I would just throw it out. Now I'm in a place in life where like it all gets written. Like I'm going to keep every idea going, whether that's
Mhm.
a country song, like I've written some country songs, if that's a more folksy, whatever. I just want to get it all out and see what's there. Ashes Remain, we'll use whatever we want to use, but I'm also learning that like we don't have to pigeonhole ourselves either. There have
Mhm.
been some
Mhm.
songs we've written in the past where it's like it became an Ashes Remain song once everybody kind of got their hands on it.
Right,
and kind
right.
of put their spin on everything. So yeah, I say like don't throw anything away. Write it all down, record every voice memo on your phone that you can imagine, and see where it goes. Does that
Right.
make
No, I
sense?
feel that. I totally feel that way. And that was the interesting thing. So the title track on the album, "The Darkness Before the Dawn," speaking directly to the point you just made, that was a song I wrote in terms of its melody, its composition. I wrote that for a completely separate project. It was a it was this sort of which has actually become its own thing, but it was more of this grand idea of a musical Dungeons and Dragons. Like we were going to do a musical theater play, and it was this
Mm,
song that I wrote for it, and I never got around to turning it into anything. So when we were going through material that we had written and seeing if anything was applicable, when I was working with one of the producers of the album and also helped write a couple pieces along the way. When I was working with Jonathan Young, I sent him that file and we were in the studio for Darkness Before the Dawn. And he pulled that up, heard it, was like, okay. And then he got the guitar out and it just quickly within 10 minutes had the drum machine playing the riff that was written there. And it was like, okay, that's the start of a great rock song.
yeah.
So yeah, saving all the ideas, you never know where they may come from and what it may evolve into. And speaking of songs and evolving into, I I'm curious to know how Judge and Jury and you had involvement in beginning and starting to come onto my album and what the inception of that was and the conversations that were held and how the song was introduced to you and how it was its inception came to be from your perspective.
Yeah. So the quick answer is Joe Rickard, right? Like you work with Joe Rickard, we work
Yep.
with Joe Rickard, and he emailed me and said, "Hey, I'm working with this artist. I think you'd be a great fit." And he sent the song over, and it was very fast, actually. I mean, within two
Yeah.
days of him emailing me, I think I was in the studio, which sort of just worked out great. We had studio time coming up anyway, so I went in early. Dude, I heard the song once, loved it. I appreciate you giving me some leverage to kind of add my own spin
Yeah.
lyrically to it. Like that was
Yeah.
really exciting. Yeah. So that's Joe.
Yeah.
Joe's the answer. He's the guy.
Yeah, Joe's really great to work with, and some fun little background as well about the latter half of the album and I'm sure you have endless stories about working with management or production or conversations with labels or what have you. But I know when it came to working with Judge and Jury, that's all new for me because when I'm doing the YouTube work, it's all independent. I do a lot of
Mhm,
cover music, but that's sans management or anybody telling me what to do. And when you're working with a label and Judge and Jury is the way we structured our deal makes it to where we're pretty together in our decision
mhm,
making. And as one goes, we all go together. So it's like our decision making process in releasing and release schedules, in design, style, sonically, it was all together. And the the last half of the songs, and it included the memory, the writing for that, and maybe Joe briefly mentioned this, but it happened, and you pretty much confirmed, like you said, it happened so quick, it was so fast. We finished those last five songs in like 10 days. Like it was a very fast turnaround time because we had decided on a release schedule for ourselves of February. And I'm sure they had analytics. I'm sure they had something that said that's a good time to release. So let's do our best to stick to it. But it was like it was like, oh, that's coming up. We need to write. We need to finish these songs. So we had five songs left to fill out the rest of the album, and they all got wrapped in a week and a half. And it would have been quicker, but Joe had some business to attend to, so it was like it would have been even. It was. I had a couple of like frenetic writing and like breakdowns because it was just like, oh my gosh, I gotta think of all of this right now. But the yeah, the memory song was one of those that it came really naturally. And the
yeah.
idea, the inception of the song, exactly the vein, the thread, the message, it was like, oh, it just I didn't have to sit and agonize over what am I going to write about this song, what are the words we're going to choose. It was just right there and ready to go. So it became a favorite on the album, and I'm really glad we made it the one of the I think probably will be the last single on the album. So just very proud of the work that was done, and extremely appreciative of you coming onto it and lending your voice. What is it as it relates to collaboratively with yourself and Ashes Remain, whenever you're deciding on working with people, either in like in a capacity like this with the song where your name is on it and it's out there and you help with a music video as well. uh, what is your what's your approach for collaborative works that you do with other artists? How much thought goes into that, or lack thereof?
I like that. I like thereof. We haven't done a lot of it. Like I haven't done a lot of it. This is probably the second vocal feature I've done. But
Mhm.
we do operate, Ashes as a family. We're a band. We all talk things out. Come to these decisions together. But yeah, I don't have a ton of experience. So get back to me in like six more vocal features, and I'll have more stories to tell about that
Yeah.
process. But we're pretty easy going in general.
Yeah, is there, to follow up on that, is there a particular reason? Has it been people reaching out? Has it been seeking it out? What's been the reason for not pursuing that route, if there is one?
Yeah, well, we haven't pursued it. Like I've never reached out to anyone to do a vocal feature. I've had a handful reach out, and there were a couple just really made sense. The
Hmm.
memory, I love the song. Like the second I heard it, I'm like, okay, like I want to be a part of that. The other one I actually did is just for a very close friend of mine in Nashville, someone I just love, and he's a brother to me. So again, it was
Hmm.
just a no brainer. It's like, yeah, I want to actually help him out in any way I can.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. Do you, beyond just collaborations, how often do you involve yourself in helping people write music and the creation of music, just writing credits in general, either through lyricism or composition? How do you go about doing that, if that's something you do?
as far as the band writing together.
You yourself,
Oh,
for
okay.
other people, friends or other artists.
Again, it's been an invite only thing. Like when someone asks for help, like I love to do it. Like it's very exciting to me to write with other people, but it's
Mhm.
not something that I just kind of shop out there. It's
Right,
not
right.
something I've done a ton of, but I've done it some, and it's usually again close friends, artists who I care about, things like that, or a project like the memory where it's just really
Right.
exciting. So
Yeah, I remember whenever we were working on this record, I mentioned Judge and Jury and our relationship being like this throughout the album. Uh, I know something that wasn't too terribly difficult for me, and I'm curious to hear it from one artist to another. Uh, when writing music and working with a band, working with your family, you're talking about, how precious, maybe that term will make sense as I say it, but how precious do you or any of the other people get about their ideas? Like, how much of a
yeah,
give and take in writing is it, and how firm do you stand? Because I know with
yeah,
this album in particular, The Darkness Before the Dawn, there was a lot of give and take in
yeah.
terms of artistic direction and such. And how does that work for you and the band and other works you do?
Yeah, that's a perfect word, precious, because I can say for me, I've been writing for a long time, and in the beginning, I was very like, no, this is my baby, this is the way it goes.
Right, right.
And not even before Ashes, in my earliest days of just writing music. And you learn over time that, choose your battles. There are certain things where you're like,
Mm,
no, this is this lyric or this melody or this moment, is to me is what the whole song's built on. But a
mm,
lot of the stuff on the outset, you find when you work with the right people, it generally improves most of the time. You know what I mean?
mhm,
Like the guitar players in my band, Rob and Ryan, they're amazing. You know what I mean? They understand the guitar in a way that I never have, and I'm sure I never
mhm,
will. In fact, in the earlier days, I would bring a song to Ryan, my rhythm player, and I would say, "Hey, like, take this, like, do something with it." And I think because he's kind and he didn't want to make me feel bad, he would play my part back to me, and I'm like, "No, like, don't do that. Like, play what you would play." So as the years go on, things get less precious, but
mhm,
also the things that are precious matter more, if that makes sense. Like,
mm.
choose your battles
Yes.
and know that, like, okay, no, this is something I care very much about, and not in a like selfish, arrogant way. Not to
Right.
like, I care about this because I'm always right. I care about this because something in me knows this is right for this song right here, right now. Um,
Mhm.
what about you? Was it a similar experience?
Yeah,
with
yeah. With this record in particular, it was definitely a collaborative one, and uh, my career on YouTube, like I do a lot of covers. That was essentially how my career started, was singing other people's music, so creating derivative content. And I'm pretty acutely aware that I don't have a career that stands right now to be able to have these wonderful opportunities without uh, other people's original ideas. You know,
hmm,
who's to say if I had written my album and it popped off in a different timeline, if you will, or some other wherever it might be. Like, I don't want to completely deny that my music might have had reach and success outside of my current career, but to the point, having a career centered on success because of someone else's original success, it kind of makes it to where I'm really not too precious about much
okay,
because I have only in some ways I feel I feel what's what I'm looking for, like I not owe anything, but like I have been able to make a career off of other people's really great ideas. Not to say I don't have my own or great original ideas too, but it's like to trust someone else's ideas and someone else's process has allowed me to get to where I am in any capacity. So why would I stop, at
mm,
any point, even if I'm really like, yes, this is what I think and feel and believe. But you said, the older you get, it actually you learn to work better with others. But the things that are important, the things that you do want to say, that
yeah,
becomes all the more like I can't change that. I have to say that.
yeah,
And a curious follow up to that, and I've asked this question before of my colleagues that I've worked with as well, YouTube colleagues, is how far does that go? Like how far are you willing to take that? Like, no, this is how it has to be. Is it in
yeah.
the face of financial pressure, pressure from a label, pressure from whomever it is? What's the willingness to, like, flag in the ground? This won't move.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be.
I think and the one word you said earlier, you mentioned trust, like trusting the people on your team, the people around you. So how far that goes often depends on how much you trust them,
Mm,
how much you trust a co-writer, a band member, a producer. If you work with them enough, and that you kind of know that, hey, this guy's generally right in these situations. Some of the best co-writing friends I have, from 20 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it is. When co-writing started with us, it was very awkward. I don't know if you felt the same way. I kind of went in thinking, great, some Nashville songwriter is going to hand me a song, tell me what to do, and whatever. And I found it to be the opposite. Mostly, it was very round table ideas back and forth, very healthy, like a
mm,
free education. But there were some
mm,
writers where I knew within 5 minutes, I'm not writing a song with this guy. It was
mm,
that
mm.
arrogant, like, I know things you don't. I had one
Oof.
songwriter literally pointing to awards on his shelf, and I'm like, "Cool, man. Like, I have to go out
Huh,
and sing these
oh.
songs." But one in particular, a friend of mine named Brian, I've written a lot with, we quickly got to a place where the trust was built, and instead of dancing around things, we could just say, "I think that's stupid." And he'd be like, "Yeah, well, I think that line is dumb." And so we had a trust built, so it was a little easier to not dig your feet in so much to some things,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
But you mentioned, like, when it comes to finances and things like that, if you're an artist at all, if anybody's an artist, like, I think part of you is representing who you are, right? And
yep,
so I
agreed.
do think there are those, yeah, there's some things that you don't compromise on, who you are.
Mm,
What the guitar does in a certain song, does that necessarily matter to me? No. What we're saying as a band, like, what is the
mhm,
message? What are the lyrics? That stuff matters a lot to me. Does that make
right.
sense? So,
That makes perfect sense. Absolutely. I think that's I've said that many times in life in different relationships. Like, all we really have, uh, not all we really have, but a significant portion of what we have is our word. And
yeah,
if we're not good for our word and we don't stand on our word, then what value or weight do we even hold for people to trust us or believe us? And that's a conversation that I've been having, not just with the label, but with my wife, with trusted colleagues and friends as it relates to my career. And I've been pretty forthcoming and bold on this album with a lot of how I feel and the beliefs I hold. And that's not something that I was did a lot of in my career on YouTube, period. Uh, Maybe out of fear, maybe out of fear for financial viability, for career viability of what that may say, and its perception. But it's one of those things that I think you're talking about. The older you get, the more precious those things become. That's kind of where it landed. Was okay. Well, if I am to have influence, if I am to be in this position, then I want to make sure that I'm being true to what I believe and putting that forth and speaking boldly and living into that. So that's a conversation that we've been having, is having a career that isn't so literally just had a phone call a couple days ago talking about how like you don't need to make corporate content because there's so much of me that's like, oh yeah, they're talking about this nice setup and using the mics and everything. It's like, what is you? What's the real you?
Yeah.
Being forthcoming, what's the just hard on your sleeve kind of stuff. And that's not been something that I've really been outside of the closest people I know. And so it's interesting writing music and having to be so kind of blunt and forthcoming beyond writing the music. Speaking on how we promote and talk about the music is has been an interesting adjustment for me because I tend to be of the belief of, well, I'll let the music speak for itself. I don't need to say anything beyond what the music said. But it's been interesting adjusting in sort of a new age of how we talk about our music and our work to sort of talk sometimes longer than the song itself.
Hmm.
And is there any way you feel about that? Have you noticed, or how is your approach to that?
I don't so like I full disclosure, I am a very much let the song speak for itself guy. Like that is kind of my heart and where I'm at. But I also think if you have anything to say, if the people like the music, they're not going to throw rocks at you, right? Like whatever your message is, if that's what you want to do, I think give them good music first. Give them something they love that speaks to them, and they'll stick around for the rest. It's but the something about letting the song speak for itself that is really special to me,
I
and
agree.
I don't know if you feel this way. Like there's a lot of songs that I thought it meant something, but then I found out the guy that wrote it, or the girl that wrote it, meant something totally different, right?
Hmm.
It didn't ruin it for me. It still was like that song still holds its place in my life.
Right.
And
Right.
I've got songs like that. People hear them be like, "Oh, this is about blah blah blah," and I'm like, "No, but I don't want to." It's fine. Like you can be that for
Yeah.
you.
Right.
Like I
Right.
don't care. And part of that's growing up in the grunge era. Like I still don't know half what Eddie Vedder said on Pearl Jam records, but I loved it. It was
Hmm.
awesome. It still spoke
Hmm.
to me in my own way. Um, yeah, I think it's all fine. Like some people talk a lot, some people talk very little. In a perfect world, if I could come out and just sing songs for 45 minutes, an hour, whatever, and walk away, that's great. Like, I'm totally happy with that.
Right. Yeah. It's trying to find the line for me in writing songs that like because I want the song to speak for itself. But one of the
Yeah,
things that I have I don't even know if it's a but, it's more of an and wanting the song to speak for itself is trying to find uh somewhere between a line between being direct and also poetic license to where it's like I kind of want you to interpret it. I kind of want you to
oh yeah,
apply yourself in some capacity to what I'm saying. And I feel like on this record in particular there are some songs that are you absolutely can put yourself in. It's open ended enough to where you can. I think the memory is actually a perfect example of a song
yeah,
where you can project your circumstances or the how you're feeling into the song and it be greatly relatable. And then there's other songs that are very to the point and this is what it's about. And there's I'm not leaving room for interpretation. And is that a way you've written music? Is that an approach you think about? Is like I'm wanting this
okay.
song to be interpreted in a way that's more open ended, or are you sort of bullseye? Like I want this to have the point. This is the point I want people to take from it.
I don't think for me as a writer, I don't like having a target.
Mm,
There's nothing wrong with it, and some writers are incredible at that. but it's difficult. A broad, let's say a broad poetic target. Okay, like if this is a general emotion I want to deal with, or
Sure.
but to say like I'm going to write a song about this story, first of all, I'm not great at it. You know what I mean? Like I've done some of it, but it's a tough thing to do. Country writers do that really well. Like if
They
you
love
listen to
writing
country
about that.
music, they will tell you a story and you believe it and you're immersed in it. In general, it's maybe a very like it's not lazy. I like to let it go where it goes, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. And if it
Yeah,
comes out
yeah, yeah.
very direct, okay, like that's cool. If it doesn't, that's okay too. But I definitely gravitate towards the more poetical, interpret it however you want song, and not for any other reason than that's what I enjoy. You know,
Hmm.
I like
Hmm.
wrestling with a lyric when I hear some song and it stops me in my tracks.
Mm,
I'm like, wait, what is this? I want to have to figure it out. You know what I mean? I
right,
don't always want to
right.
be told this is what they want me to know. Like I want to wrestle with that. Like that's fun for me.
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Well, that's a
Yeah.
that's a that's a phenomenal answer, and I like that ethos for writing as well. And you mentioned you worked with some Nashville writers
Mhm.
uh, at some point. Did you live in Nashville at some point for any given time?
It felt like it. We we traveled back and forth constantly. We're writing one of our albums, and yeah, we'd go down for 3 days at a time, 4 days at a time, back and forth, nonstop. And it was good though. You'd have 15 to 18-hour days writing in 3-hour blocks, and like write with this guy for 3 hours, jump in the bus, go over, write with this guy for 3 hours. But what I liked about it was if I'm going to be away from home, let's be as productive as possible. Let's
Mm,
get every possible thing done we can while we're here. Um, and it was, I said before, it was like a free education. I mean, some of these
right,
guys, this is all they do. This is their job. I mean, they know things I'd never heard of, never thought of, different ways, tricks of songwriting, methods, all that stuff. So I just once it started, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna embrace it and I'm gonna
right.
learn everything I can from these people, you know, and it was super helpful. Like I loved it.
Well, and speaking of them, I mean, you're talking 15, 18-hour days, and this is what they do for a living. Uh, when it comes to like it's their job, right? It's just the job,
Yeah.
and I deal with
Yeah.
this a lot in my career, going to conventions and meeting other colleagues, and just in the comment sections of my own videos, you have so many people that want to do a similar like career, and there is this kind of there's a not everybody, but certainly enough people to where it's a worthy thing that sticks in my mind. There's sort of this mystical view of songwriting, of music creation.
Mm,
There's this romanticizing of it. But then you just mentioned 15, 18-hour days with people who this is
yeah.
their job. This is their
Yeah.
job. Their job is to create a thing that people revere and also feel is this magical property. We often
Yeah.
talk about. I hear people use the phrase, and I don't necessarily disagree. I don't disagree with it. It's like music is a second, is like just its own language, is how it moves us. But when you're sitting down to write and work on music and work with the band or work on whatever you're doing yourself, how much of that is just an inspired moment and how much of that is
Mm,
like intention, like I am going to write today, and that's what I'm doing right now. You're sort of manifesting the inspiration, if you will. uh
yeah.
Curious to hear that.
So I used to be inspiration only. And you
Hmm.
know, when a
Hmm.
song hits me, I'm gonna grab a guitar. And again, I'm older, learning that you're not gonna write too many songs that way. And
Uh-huh.
so
Uh-huh.
I'm learning now to just like these pro songwriters, just carve out the time. You know,
Hmm.
my
Hmm.
wife's great for reminding me, hey, because I get stuck in this. It's got to be 3 hours or four. She's like, no, maybe it's 30 minutes or an hour. But if you have time, take the
Right,
time.
right.
And it's working. You know what I mean? So basically, I
Hmm.
feel like if you get into the habit, the ritual, the whatever of scheduling it throughout your week, the inspiration comes more often. At least for
I
me.
agree.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this is
I
part of what I do, so, it's like flexing any muscle, you know, it helps.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. That's a conversation that one of my colleagues, Jonathan Young, I mentioned him, and I've talked with other people. Is if you do it, and that's one of my missions when I go out and talk to people, is just demystify,
Yeah.
artistic creations. Not just songwriting, but all art that one may make. As it's a practice, it's a habit,
Mhm.
it's a muscle that you work out. if you're just waiting around, and that's my thought too, is that maybe there's I guess there's some romantic notion about creating, because there's plenty in life, at any given time to even dwell on or think about, to be inspired by. Well, it doesn't take very long to have something sit on your mind and be like, yep, that's a thing I could write about if I chose to write about it. It won't take me very long. So it's refreshing to hear that perspective, and not only that, but that's a perspective I want to instill in my audience that watches things, is watches what I do, is not only can you do this, but it's not, it doesn't make you a wizard. It doesn't make you special, so to speak.
Yeah,
I think what you're saying and how you do it and how passionate you are about it, I think that is special.
yeah,
But the act of it, that's a thing that you know any of us
yeah.
can do.
No, I agree.
Um, but yeah, so we did the memory. It sounds freaking awesome. When it comes to if you were if you were to collaborate with other artists, is there anybody that you've thought of, like, oh yeah, like favorite bands that you have, favorite
Sure, yeah.
artists, where you're like, you know what, they might be on my docket. You don't have to say if you don't want to, but I'm always
No, that's
curious to
okay.
know what other people's sort of who they look up to and they want to be involved
Yeah.
in what they do.
Caleb Hyles.
All right. Well,
Check that one off the list.
I have some amazing news, by the way. You that may have already happened. If you go to
That's
this
good.
link, I'll post it in the chat, and there you're in it.
Yeah,
Surprising.
dreams come true. No, that was great. But I make no Breaking Benjamin was my favorite rock band, like my favorite current rock band. So anything that had anything to do with them would be awesome. Like I would love that. Yeah.
Right,
And
right.
some you have one on your album, Lacey Sturm, I think is one of the
Yeah,
greatest
yeah,
voices, of our generation. Like she's incredible. Everything about her is awesome. So
yeah.
that's
In
awesome.
yeah,
Way to go.
yeah. Another incredible individual too to talk to
Yeah.
and learn from and hear their wisdom. Yeah. Do
Mm.
you ever feel a sense of? Pardon me. I just these questions are kind of bubbling up.
That's great.
But do you ever feel a sense of what's I'm looking for? Not maybe leadership or responsibility. Do you view yourself, or do you think you should view yourself in some sort of a pioneering, trailblazing capacity for genres of music, like let's say alt rock or metal or rock in general? Do you feel a sense of responsibility for that? Is that a mantle you take, or does it ever cross your mind, being around for
I,
so long and storied career?
I can't say I've ever thought about it that way. I think I always my only thought is what's next. You know what I mean? Like here's what we did, here's what we just did. What do we do next?
Hmm.
Because I think so much of how that's received is out of our control. Um, so no, I guess the way you think about it, no, I've never thought of myself or the band as a leader in any sense of the genre or anything like that. Just hoping to grow, do the next thing, and hopefully it's better than the last thing.
Man,
So
that's just a great perspective. Um, I just came back from doing a tour with a orchestra. I did it
yeah, I
over
saw
about
that.
a month and a half, and it was a really, really great experience. But I'd never done anything quite like that. I'd never been on a tour. I'd never been on a tour bus. I'd never had to work with that many people, perform that consistently, 4 nights in a row, kind of thing. So I learned a lot about my time, about myself, and what I'm capable of and what I need to work on. This is mainly just for me. I don't know how much this applies to anybody else in here, but what's like a great lesson that you learned from being on the road, from doing touring
Mm.
during times you've toured?
I think so. If I can think of one, and it's sort of involuntary, I used to think of myself as an extreme extrovert. Like
Oh,
always wanted to be around people, always wanted,
wow.
and I always joke that touring took that out of me, but I think I learned more balance. It's that, if you go play a show and then if there's people around after the show or if you're signing autographs or whatever the case is, and some days you're on a radio morning show at 6 in the morning, even though you went to bed at 3, and there's
Oof.
setup and
Oof.
tear down and all this stuff. And so I just learned that alone time is great. Solitude is great. Because
Mm,
as the singer, as the front man, as anybody in the band or whatever, you kind of have a responsibility to be on, like you're switched on for a certain amount of time, right? Like
Right, right.
if you're in a bad mood one time in the lobby after a show, like that's your reputation now. Like you can't, no one
Man.
cares that you just drove through the night, like from 10 hours east or whatever. So take care of your alone time. It's good. It's good. Like for me,
Mm.
I'll just sometimes after a show, shut the curtain on my bunk in the bus and just sit in silence. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't tired. Just sit, just exist outside of everything else.
Wow.
And it makes the time with people better. When you're taken
Mhm.
care of, it makes okay. Now I'm ready. The next day, I'm everything feels as it should be. I'm no longer stressed out or whatever.
Wow. Yeah, I was watching an interview with David Dreneman. I'm forgetting how to say
Hmm.
last names.
Yep.
Lead singer of Disturbed.
Same, I think.
Um, and he was talking about how it's sort of the inverse because you're mentioning that you've always seen yourself as actually extroverted, which is funny because most people on my channel and myself included would call ourselves extremely introverted. So the tour sort of had an opposite effect on me. But David said he's like it's actually really lonely on the road because I kind of have to peel away because he's doing these long tours. He's having to preserve his voice. He's doing what you're talking about, sort of you're trying to keep your mental in check and be there for everybody and be on correctly. So he finds it a little more uh, uh, distant, despondent. I don't
Mhm.
know if that's from the nature of doing very long world tours or what have you, but it's interesting to hear a different perspective that I guess as frontmen, vocalists, are handling it a little bit differently. Uh, I know I'd always, like I said, I view myself introverted, and this tour was, in some ways, it got me out of my comfort zone because it's an orchestra, so there's there's 20 of us, and I was far more uh, engaged and creating camaraderie than I think I'd ever been, and it made it to where in a very short period of time, I got really close to
Mhm.
the entirety of the crew. Uh, Not just I had another vocalist on tour with me, but like we're all working together towards a same goal. Uh, and being on tour in that capacity, I can see why people return to the well of touring, even though um, I've only heard how arduous it can be. We had a tour bus and it was good, and we got to sleep overnight. Uh, so it was, and we some days we had an off day and we got a hotel. So it was probably one of the more comfortable tour
Yeah.
settings that one can have. Because I know it can be really. I heard stories while I was on the tour that people are just like, "Here's our crazy nightmare story that we went through, and this is the life. This is the best." Uh, so does that matter? Like when you're thinking about going and doing touring, uh, is that one of the reasons that you will go back out and do it? Is the camaraderie created, the team there? Is that kind of worth it to just overlook all of the discomfort that may come from it? Or do you feel like it's uncomfortable at all? Or are you just like taking it on the chin?
No, no. So that part is great. There's no denying when you're on the road with. First of all, if you're in a band, I hope you love the people in your band. Like I hope you
Yeah, yeah,
enjoy
yeah.
seeing them. Not everybody does. So it is, but it can be a lot like summer camp. If you're touring with other artists, other bands, most of the experiences we've had were great. Like by the end of that tour, yeah, you love each other. Like you're real friends now. You're crew guys, all that stuff. It's all very real. And I think it's funny because like when you said like how arduous touring is, what people tell you, I've always thought like I had a job before I left Florida where I was literally digging ditches for a pipe company, and so, like, the worst day on tour, I'm like, There's no shovel in my hand, like, this is not that bad. Maybe the bus broke down, okay, but, like, tonight, I'm not gonna be covered in mud, and, like, I'm not gonna work a
Man,
16-hour day, whatever, like, I've always
wow.
seen touring as, like, challenging, yes. Being away from your family, for me, is the hardest part, and,
Yeah,
there's kind of a lack
agreed.
of routine, like but is it fun? Yeah, of course it's fun, like, I think it's fun, like, I've met some people who were brilliant musicians who were touring musicians, but they hated the touring life so much that they just could not do it. I'm
Wow.
like, I don't understand that, like, other than I do like to be home with my family. That's if I could take my family on the road all the time, let's go. Like, I would tour, like,
Yeah,
nonstop. It would be awesome.
yeah. Well,
So
do you have a favorite city? I had some favorite places this last time on tour, the places I'd
mm,
never been. Like I was in we were in Des Moines, Iowa, and I like actually really enjoyed that. And we were
nice.
in and we visited Kansas City, Missouri, and I thought there was some really cool stuff. They had the College Basketball Hall of Fame, and I love college basketball, so I was like,
Nice.
I'm just hang out here all day. No one else went with me, but because a bunch of nerds on a bus. But I was like, I'm a nerd and love sports, so I hung out there all day and shot hoops with some local kids. So it was like super fun. Is there any city in particular you're like, oh, this is where I'm going if I get a
I,
chance to
I
go
don't know
back?
if I can say a city in particular. We love as a band everything West Coast,
Oh
just
yeah,
because
yeah,
it's so different. It's so nice from Phoenix and the deserts to LA and like the beaches. So anytime we have an excuse to go there, we're happy. Like that's great to be out there. Texas has been really good to us. You know, we've had some great
nice, yeah.
shows in Texas, Austin and Houston and areas like that. I
Hmm.
always joke about somehow Gillette, Wyoming, we had a massive crowd in a Walmart parking lot that I didn't even know this place existed. But just really good people. Like anywhere where the people are awesome, I want to go back. You know what I mean? And
I
that's
feel
that's
that.
most experiences. I can't think of many times where I'm like, oof, don't want to see this place again. Like,
Yeah, that's
you know what I
true,
mean?
right?
So good
And if
people,
we
I'm happy.
and if I did know one, I wouldn't say it out loud.
No.
That'd be the other thing, because I have a couple of cities in my head where I'm thinking there's something weird about that town, but I'm not
Oh,
gonna.
we all have those. Yeah, you're not wrong. The weird places, yes. Yeah, there's some of those.
Also, and this is just out of a more curiosity, because one of the other vocalists that was on the tour um, was from this city and has their own opinions and thoughts about it, but they're from Baltimore, Maryland. So I wanted to know, like, how do you feel about how do you feel about Baltimore, Maryland?
I like living in Birdland. Uh, Baltimore's good, man. It's let me say this because I didn't grow up here.
uh,
So when I moved here in 2002 to start the band, and for the first year and a half, I thought everyone here hates me. Everyone seems so angry. What I learned is it's not superficial. You know, growing up in
mm,
Florida or anywhere in the South, everything is so flowery and friendly to your
yeah,
face all the time. In Maryland, in Baltimore especially, once you earn a friendship, that is so real. I mean,
mm,
it's kind of a joke, but these people will die and kill for you once they're on board. If you're their
mhm,
favorite sports team, if you're their favorite band, whatever it is. So it's gritty. It took me a while to get used to it, but I've learned to appreciate the realness of the culture so much. Like there's
mm,
a lot of incredible people up here. It gets a bad rap, you know, Baltimore itself. And everyone talks about the crime and this and that, but there's just incredible people there too. You know, there's
mm.
a thriving art scene. There's a lot to be happy about when it comes to Baltimore.
Well, that's pretty much the same exact thing they said.
Hey, nailed
So
it.
that lines up. It's interesting you mentioned the Southeast, because I was born. I live in Texas right now, but I lived for the majority of my life. I'm 33, and I moved when I was 25. I moved to Texas, but I'm from Alabama. So when you
Nice.
mention the South and more flowery, a little more, oh bless your heart, it's
Yep.
sort of there's a veil of sincerity in some ways. It takes a little
Yeah.
while to get past that veil. It has been refreshing going to. We were in Boston just a couple days ago, and it's refreshing being in the Northeast with a little bit more of that. What you see is what you get, kind
Yeah.
of
It really is.
mentality. So yeah, I'll let them know. They also said, and I didn't know this until I just didn't know, but like Old Bay seasoning,
Oh
I've
my
been on
gosh.
that. I've been on that for a long time
Dude.
since I was really young, and I didn't know where it came from. So I was
Yeah.
thrilled when I found
Yeah.
out about that.
Hey,
Like,
they put it in everything. Old Bay ice cream, like, you can't even imagine, like, Old Bay goes everywhere in Maryland.
yeah,
It's an institution.
yeah. And I didn't know if Baltimore has one, but we were in Connecticut, and we were at a place. We were at a city called Wallingford, just like 20 minutes south of Hartford, and they had a food item called it was a steamed burger. So it just essentially they steam every part ingredient. They steam
Okay.
every ingredient to cook it. Steam cheese, steam bun, steam meat, but not at the same time. separately, and then they put it together. It was good. It was kind of wet, but it was good. Does like does Baltimore have any particular item that stands out as quirky and weird like that I may not have
Uh,
heard of?
I don't know if it's quirky and weird. I just know that like crabs are it. Like
Yes.
if everyone here eats crabs, crab cakes, all things crab and Old Bay related. Something weird? I can't think of like a weird other than you're ripping a crab apart with your bare hands. Like that's kind of weird if you didn't grow up doing that. That's
Yeah, it's a
strange.
little brutal, but in the
Yeah.
South, we caught shrimp, so I'm used to
Yeah.
ripping apart some form of a shellfish. Uh, but the shoot, I had the thought about another Baltimore thought. Oh, when I was speaking of shellfish, it's a good follow up to that. Uh, I was in Maine and I had a lobster roll, and I never had a lobster roll before, and it was very, 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 very fine, but also super expensive. I,
Oh yeah.
I don't know, I, but I think it's like from the southeast and the northeast. It seems as though there's a commonality of seafood in general. Um, if you in your times that you've been in the southeast, what do you prefer? The way the northeast approaches seafood, or the way the southeast approaches seafood?
Oh man. A lot of people are gonna hate me, but like I don't prefer seafood like in general.
Oh,
Um
that whole thing is just
it's fine. I don't hate it, but yeah, I don't like it doesn't I could live without it. Like it's okay.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I
just
know.
both the southeast and the northeast can take that up with you
I'm very
some other
happy
time.
with all of your seafood preparations. Enjoy.
Nice,
Like
nice.
however.
Well, Josh, thank you immensely, by the way, for hopping on our
Yeah.
YouTube Go Live together, as they
Yeah, it's
call it.
awesome.
Learning something new about all of these, and thank you again for hopping on the song, lending your voice, your lyricism, your passion, your time. It just means a lot to me. You know, like I said, I have a YouTube career and I've done this for almost a decade, but foraying into writing original ideas and original music, that's still pretty green in that. So
Mm,
it's definitely, I feel pretty humbled, distinctly humbled, that you'd be willing to, come alongside me for helping write the song and the career I have. So just thank you immensely for that.
dude.
I really
Dude,
appreciate that.
thanks for bringing me in. And seriously, like this is great, dude. Good work.
Thank you. I
Seriously,
really
good work, man.
appreciate that. Absolutely. Well,
Very,
you
very
have
cool
a
record.
thank you. Appreciate it, Josh. Thank you again for hopping on the live stream. And if you guys haven't yet, anybody who's in chat or who might be seeing this after the fact in a playback, the album is in the description. We have tags there. Go check that album out. Go check out Ashes Remain, obviously. And yeah, so have a great rest of your day, Josh. Thank you so
You too,
much.
brother.
And
Yeah, man.
let's work together again soon.
Call me back. We'll do it.
You got it. And I'll figure out how to stop this because I don't actually know what I'm
Oh,
doing.
perfect. I was worried I
Oh,
had to do it. That's
yeah,
good.
let me figure. If it just randomly stops, that's I did it right. Oh, there it is.
Fair
There's the
enough.
button. I'll see you later.
See you, man.